Hi there, welcome back to our series looking at the miracles of Jesus as recorded in the first three Gospels, Matthew, Mark and Luke. Do you know, it's really great to be able to dig around in this narrative, to find out things about Jesus. It truly does, as I said last week, make for compelling reading. And we discover things about Jesus, we discover things about his actions, about the way he thought, about his priorities through these miracle accounts. Now, Mark's Gospel makes for truly compelling reading indeed, because Mark's Gospel doesn't hang around very long. It's a fast-paced Gospel. It's the type of Gospel that it's the highlights reel at the end of a football match. Rather than watching a full 90 minutes plus stoppage time, Mark gives us these snapshots of who Jesus is. But he certainly doesn't scrimp on his descriptions of Jesus. The miracle we're focusing on today is not one miracle, it's actually a series of miracles. And it really paints a picture as to what Jesus' priorities were. So let's read together Mark chapter 1, verses 32 to 39, and I'm reading in the New International Version. It says this: "That evening after sunset, the people brought to Jesus all who were ill and demon-possessed. The whole town gathered at the door, and Jesus healed many who had various diseases. He also drove out many demons, but he would not let the demons speak because they knew who he was. Very early in the morning, while it was still dark, Jesus got up, left the house, and went off to a solitary place where he prayed. Simon and his companions went to look for him. And when they found him, they exclaimed, 'Everyone is looking for you.' Jesus replied, 'Let us go somewhere else, to the nearby villages, so I can preach there also. That is why I have come.' So he traveled throughout Galilee, preaching in their synagogues and driving out demons." So as I say, this miracle, or these series of miracles, shows something about the priorities of Jesus. And I want to highlight three priorities to us today that this narrative shows up for us. And they all begin with the letter P to help us remember. So the first priority that Jesus has is his priority for people. There was lots and lots and lots of people who had gathered at the door. The NIV translation says that the whole town had gathered. I reckon Mark was probably using a bit of hyperbole, but there was lots and lots of people there. And I don't know about you, but there comes a point in the day where I get a little bit of compassion fatigue, where I've had enough and I just want to shut the doors and I want to keep people out and keep me in and have my own space. Now, Jesus gets tired because there are points at which it tells us that he gets tired. And that might have been the case here. Jesus might have been tired, but he doesn't seem to show it because his priority for people takes over. I remember when I used to do some youth work in Glasgow, and we used to run a youth club every Thursday night. And there was one girl who came along to the youth club quite faithfully. I won't share her name, but she came along quite faithfully. And if I can describe her to you in a few adjectives, let's just say she was a big girl. She was a really big girl. In fact, she was about the size of some of the adult leaders there. She also used to smell a bit, and she was not the sharpest tool in the box. And a lot of the other young people used to avoid this girl, probably because she used to pack a punch, and they were afraid if they said something out of turn that they would get a see into. But the more we discovered about this girl, the more we discovered that she didn't have the best of home lives. And her mum and dad used to send her out once a week with, some money to buy her own dinner. And invariably she would end up at the chip shop, and which is when she came into the youth club. Now, they say that you shouldn't have your favourites, but I had a real soft spot for this girl. And I made sure that every week I was going to give her the best welcome. And every week I was going to make sure that at least I would go and have a conversation with her. As I say, I often have got compassion fatigue, but Jesus doesn't. You know, there are many people who are put off Christianity, not by the way that Jesus acts, but by the way the church acts. We allow compassion fatigue to take over, and we allow our sense of individualism to take over, where it's all about me, myself, and I. But Jesus here doesn't have judgment. He doesn't have self-righteousness. He doesn't have vanity. He doesn't have pride. He doesn't ask the disciples to close the curtains and to keep the people away. But instead, he welcomes the people in. I don't know if anyone's watching this and you've been upset by the way that people in the church have treated you. I just want to say sorry. Sorry for the way the church has treated you. And I hope that you will understand that the person that we follow is nothing like this, because he has got people at the heart of most things and everything that he does. So let's get back to the narrative. So word has got round who this person Jesus is. If you trace back in the narrative of Mark, Jesus has had quite a busy time. He's been in the synagogue, he's preached an epic sermon. He's then gone out and he's healed a man who was demon-possessed. And then he's gone back to his friend's house, and there's a few friends gathered there, and he heals the mother-in-law of what was to become his closest friend, a guy called Simon, the miracle that we studied last week. And verse 28 of chapter 1 says that news about him spread quickly over the whole region of Galilee. Jesus was not only pricking the curiosity of people, but he was also tapping into and igniting hope in people. The questions were being asked, maybe Jesus can do something about my friend. I've tried everything for this person, or I've tried everything for myself. Maybe Jesus might be the answer. And so they go to explore, and they go to find out more as to who Jesus is, and they crowd in on him. Now, I don't know how many people would have been at the door here, but there would have been lots and lots of people. And there was a great need among the people. But Jesus just gets his sleeves rolled up, and one by one, he welcomes them in. And he heals them of physical ailments. And he heals them of demon possession. And everything and anything that came to him, he seems to heal. There was no record of him not seeing anyone. So he's interested in people, priority number one. Priority number two is that he is interested to show his purpose. So priority number two is purpose. Jesus was always absolutely sure and certain in who he was. He was the Son of God, and he came to put an end to the problem of sin. And Jesus had an order by which he was going to reveal his identity to people. He was going to reveal who he was. Notice as he drives out some of the demons in the passage, they're trying to say who he was. The Luke record of the same miracle says this: demons came out of many people shouting, "You are the Son of God." But he rebuked them and would not allow them to speak, because they knew that he was the Messiah. That's pretty peculiar behavior, don't you think? Jesus doesn't allow these demons to speak out, and allow them to speak out, which was truth. Jesus does this another few times in his ministry. He doesn't allow people to tell of who he was, and certainly not to say publicly who he was. I wonder why that is. Well, the simple reason is because people weren't ready for the truth. In the ancient world, the gods were all about their power. And the expectation around about that time was that the Messiah was going to come and he was going to be a powerful military figure. He was going to be a warrior that was going to rise up and quash the forces of the Roman army. They wouldn't be able to digest without Jesus giving them more context as to what his messiahship was going to look like. And ultimately that was going to lead to his death on the cross. So the public confessions that he makes as to who he was and what his purpose was come much later in the gospel. So those are the two things so far. So he's got a priority for people. He's got a priority where he knows his purpose. And the last priority that he has is the priority of prayer. Embossed onto every line of the agenda of Jesus was the need to get away to pray, to spend time in solitude with just him and his Father. And we can never underestimate the importance that Jesus places on this. Look at what happens here. Jesus is absolute top dog. He is the most popular guy in town. Everyone wants a piece of Jesus. If you were the Messiah coming and you wanted to tell as many people about who you were as possible, you would jump on such an opportunity. You would think, now is my time. Revival has happened. I've got all these hundreds of people around me. But Jesus doesn't do that. The Bible says that he takes the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. And Jesus often does things that are countercultural to what our initial expectation may be. The people are demanding of Jesus, but his demands are greater, that he gets away and spends time with the Father. I wonder where our priorities lie. I wonder if our priorities lie that when we have been expending our energies, or when even we're at the start of the day or the middle of the day, are our priorities to come to our Father, to spend time in prayer? What happens when the pressure cooker is on life at its highest? Because that's exactly what was happening to Jesus here. Lots and lots of people, lots and lots of pressure. He was tired at the end of the day, and he gets out early the next morning to go and to spend time with his Father. How do we react in those situations? So let's draw our conclusions from the text today. What are we learning about Jesus from today's set of miracles? Well, number one, we learn that Jesus loves people, and he doesn't readily turn people away who need him. Number two, he didn't let anyone entice him into revealing who he was ahead of his time. He knew his purpose. And number three, he took time away always to pray, to seek the Father, to realign and to reaffirm his priorities. God bless you. Take care.